Welcome back to Grade 8 Geography, Unit number 2, Global Inequalities, Economic Development, and Quality of Life. This is lesson number 15. What are some quality of life patterns and trends? Here's a question to consider. What examples of inequality in our world are you aware of? Put the video on pause so that you can consider your answer to this question, and then we'll share our ideas in our next class. When using indexes, geographers look for patterns and trends within countries and in the world as a whole. Identifying patterns and trends can lead to better ways to reduce inequalities around the world. And just look at this picture here and consider the inequality or inequalities that you see. Since 1990, HDI scores have shown an increase in the quality of life in most countries. A positive observation has been the improvement shown in some countries that scored lowest on the HDI in past years. Nepal's HDI score has more than doubled as it has made progress in education, health, and support for women who are starting businesses. Unfortunately, other low-ranking countries continue to receive poor scores every year. Several African nations have failed to provide stable economies. Niger, Chad, and the South African Republic have also seen a lot of conflict and violence over the last 20 years. In almost every country worldwide, life expectancy has been increasing. One reason is the strength of the economies in those countries. But money is not the only reason for longer life expectancy. Cuba's gross national income is lower than America's. However, Cuba has a national healthcare system that provides free service to all Cubans. In America, people still have to pay for medical services. Poverty continues to be a major issue for a number of countries. In 2014, an estimated 1.2 billion people were living in extreme poverty. This meant that those people could not meet their most basic needs: food, water, and shelter. Patterns show that the gap between the wealthy and the poor countries continues to grow. The rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. Most countries have seen an increase in their level of wealth. Some countries with low or medium scores on the HDI have increased the income of their population, meaning that millions of people have been lifted out of poverty. As a result of this growth, the regions in the world where wealth is concentrated may change. By 2020, China, Brazil, and Cuba may have stronger economies than Canada, the US, and Western Europe. Gender inequality is the unequal treatment of individuals based on whether they are male or female. Unfortunately, girls and women are the greatest victims of gender inequality. This includes discrimination in the areas of income, health, education, political representation, and land ownership. Countries with low HDI scores have the greatest gender inequality, while high-scoring countries have the greatest level of gender equality. And this is from 2009, but sadly, there has not been any significant changes in the levels of gender inequality as seen on this world map here. So in red, you can see these are the areas that have the highest level of gender inequality, whereas the lighter colored areas are the countries that have the greatest level of gender equality. Gender equality is important because it means fair treatment for all citizens in the country. Women make up half of the world's working population. When all citizens, male and female alike, are well educated and well trained, a country's economy is more successful and people are motivated to contribute to society. Unfortunately, the push to improve quality of life has led to an unsustainable harvesting of resources and the harming of natural habitats. Many countries have increased their wealth by permitting activities that harm the environment. Actions like clear-cutting forests to make room for new houses may benefit people in the short term. However, the long-term environmental impact, pollution, loss of natural resources, will eventually lower the overall quality of life of people worldwide. The rural-urban gap is continuing to grow. In 2012, more than 80% of all Canadians lived in urban areas. Many people living in urban areas are living in poverty. In 2014, Hong Kong had 114,000 millionaires, but one-fifth of the city's population lived in poverty. And this picture really points out the divide between the rich and the poor in Hong Kong. Here in the background, you can see a major urban center here with a lot of uh, commercial buildings, whereas in the foreground, you can see what sadly has come to be known as a slum. Overall, people living in urban areas are wealthier than people living in rural areas. One explanation for this is that urban areas have larger populations. This makes urban areas the focus for new businesses and economic activities. Cities become centers for services like banking, healthcare, and education. Because rural areas have smaller populations, there's less motivation to create new businesses and provide services that improve people's quality of life. So, we have looked at the following issues and inequalities: continuing poverty, gender inequality, damaging the environment in order to improve quality of life, and rural-urban inequality. So then, which of these issues or inequalities do you think are the most important to correct? Why do you feel this way? So, we're going to put this video on pause so that you can consider your answers to these two questions, which we will discuss at the start of tomorrow's class. If you don't feel ready to answer these questions, go back and watch this video at least 2 more times. And then put the video on pause so that you can think about or write down your responses. And until our next class, this concludes today's video.